Today, I'm going to be talking with Dee Nicole about panic attacks. Now, this is something that affects quite a lot of people at some stage in their lives, and it absolutely stops you dead in your tracks. It can be so terrifying that it's affecting every aspect of your life. So it's really important that you know about what it is your body is trying to tell you. So, watch this episode, and I hope that you can take away something that is really, really useful and helps you when you are absolutely stuck with fear. Hello, welcome. So lovely to see you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really pleased to be able to welcome Dinita Nicole. Lovely to see you, Dee. How are you?
I am doing well. Happy to be here talking with you guys.
It's so lovely to be able to have this conversation with homeopaths about, everything homeopathic. But first of all, Dee, tell me why you decided to become a homeopath, because I know you were doing lots of other therapies first.
I don't know if it was a clear, conscious decision, I gotta be honest, but it's definitely where life took me. I had a healing practice that I loved, 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 and used many modalities from Reiki to different kinds of energy healing and balancing throughout the body, as well as developing your intuition and that level of connection. And would get amazing results with people, absolutely hands down. One of the things that's interesting about those is that they are definitely practices, which means they require practice, which is a little bit harder for people to slip into. And that's just something I've learned as a result of entering into these studies. Is not actually why. So I'll go back to your question. But truly, I found myself in life transition, and I was living in a place, and we had two category 5 hurricanes within 2 weeks, and I had a geographical shift as a result of that. And then my practice that I had set up kind of fizzled as a result of the geographical change. And I needed to do something new. And homeopathy has always been in the background for me. It's been a word that I respond to. It's got a vibrational pull, if you know what I mean. Um, and I had an incredible teacher of herbalism who was also a homeopath. And she would always bring it up. And I'd always think, oh, I'm going to learn that one day. And I got discouraged. I got discouraged because I thought this is going to take me a lifetime to learn and I'll never get good at it. Until finally I found myself in this place where everything was different. You know, my life had changed so quickly, so dramatically that I needed to make a choice. And so I decided to make the choice that I was afraid of, and that was learning homeopathy. And I'm so glad I did.
We are too. It's such a lovely, and the fact that you can now talk about homeopathy as well as everything else that you do as well, I think it really, really brings it all together. And today, of course, we're going to talk about panic attacks. Why panic attacks?
Why panic attacks? Because they are so common, and people end up being unnecessarily putting themselves through a level of fear, thinking something's wrong with them, thinking that they're the only ones, thinking that something terrible is happening when it's an experience that so many of us have. So we should start talking about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So where do we begin? I mean, with homeopathy, where do we begin? We have to know so much, don't we? What are we asking?
We're asking, for one, let's go back to the basics of homeopathy. In homeopathy, we honor the fact that everyone's expression is different. So I can use this blanket term panic attacks, and for one person, that means that they are trembling and cowering in a corner and hiding. And for another person, they think they're going to die because they are having a heart attack. They swear they're having a heart attack. And for somebody else, it is constant fear and being on edge. These are all different expressions of it. And as you know, in homeopathy, that means they do not receive the same prescription. We don't treat different expressions the same way just because there's a blanket term for us to understand them as human beings. So we are looking at all of these levels. even more than that in homeopathy, we're going to honor the fact that a panic attack is actually your body's last resort to get your attention about something that's happening all the time underneath the surface. Yeah, so that leads us back to levels of anxiety. um, of how you're doing in your everyday, how you're functioning in your everyday, what it is that you're afraid of, what's worrying you, because it's not that moment of panic attack that is actually the issue. That's just your body saying, I really need you to pay attention here. Please pay attention to me. Yeah. It's like I live in a apartment where the fire alarms are extremely sensitive.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
It's frustrating. It's annoying. That's how sometimes panic attacks are too when they pop up. They're frustrating and annoying because you know there's not actually a fire, but that alarm is sounding and we have to listen to it. Not sure if I answered your question there.
No, absolutely, you did, and it's such a lovely way of putting it because quite often when people come to us as homeopaths, it's sort of the last resort, isn't it? It's, oh my goodness, I can't carry on with this. We've got to sort this. And quite often we need to go back a few years, don't we?
Sometimes a lifetime. Yeah, we absolutely do. But the the one thing that we are absolutely certain of when it comes to something of this nature is your body's been giving you signals for a while. There's a level in which you've been feeling unsafe for a while. And so we're not even going to approach it as let's stop panic attacks. Absolutely. We can give you something to help in the moment, and managing the moment is important. But it's not going to say, let's take the panic away. We're saying, let's see what signals your body needs so it feels safer all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much to be considering, isn't there? And when we think of the people who come to us explaining what's happening, they're explaining the physical symptoms at that moment. And sometimes it takes quite a while to understand the build-up of this and where this started and actually going back to address that cause. So what sort of questions would you be asking in order to find out what really needs to be addressed?
I mean, let's be clear. We're going to ask about the moment, right? We want to know how your body is expressing this. We want to know if your heart is racing and you're short of breath, or you're dizzy, or if you're feeling faint, or if you're frozen, or if you're frantic, right? These point us to which medicines help, but we're also going to ask you, how long have you been feeling this way? We're going to ask you, do you notice if anything makes it better or worse? We're going to ask you, when's the first time you remember this happening? We're going to ask you about your dreams, because that's where your subconscious has been speaking. I guarantee it. We're going to ask you how you're sleeping. We're going to ask you about your appetite. We are going to spend time getting to know each other and get a full look at you and where you are in this moment and why it might be that your body is choosing this expression.
It's a really, really powerful way of explaining it, Dee. Thank you for that, because so many people will be thinking, well, it life gets to a certain point where actually it's stopping them have life. It's stopping them doing something specific. And thoughts come to mind with one of my patients who was, okay, I can drive, I can get in the car, I just cannot go over that bridge. And
Yeah.
what I'm coming to you for is because I want to be able to go and visit my parents who live the other side of that bridge. And that's their goal.
And do you know what's interesting about panic attacks in particular in that example is panic actually feeds on fear. So
Okay.
the more suddenly we're afraid of the panic, in addition to whatever we were afraid of in the first place. And so that just makes it build. And so it's about taking that all down in a way that's really easy for your body to manage. Yeah.
You're absolutely right, because another lady comes to mind who was so afraid that she would have a panic attack whilst driving her children. So that meant she was then saying, no, no, we can't go there. No, no, we can't do that. And she was realizing that her fear of having a panic attack was actually affecting the whole family now. So,
Yeah.
so that's why people come, isn't it? But let's go back to those physical symptoms because you mentioned that they can be really varied, can't they?
Absolutely. I used to have a client who, when she would have a panic attack, she would get panic attacks when she was home alone. And I want to say something more about that, but I'll save it in a minute. She would get panic attacks when she was home alone, and she would reach out to me because suddenly she was frozen and couldn't leave the house. Yeah. And it had not registered for her that this might be panic because she's like, oh, I'm supposed to be um, breathing as though I have asthma. And, she was a little short of breath, but it wasn't what she pictured in her head. And so recognizing that that was what was happening wasn't part of the equation for her.
That's really interesting, isn't it? So our preconceived ideas are going to decide what labels we put on this. So let's go into homeopathy then. What can we do? What do the remedies do? Why do some remedies work for panic attacks?
So there's a lot of layers, right? We can talk about the remedies that definitely address the panic attack in the moment, and they're going to be the ones that we're really familiar with. They're going to be the super common ones, right? We're talking about aconite when it's sudden, and because something just scared us. We're talking about Gelsemium when we're feeling shaky and trembling. We're talking about Kelly Arsenicum because we're trying to control the situation as it's happening and there's so much tension. We're holding on for dear life, right? Those are going to be the really common remedies. But when we're looking at this, we're gonna end up looking deeper at that core layer of where this fear is rooted in the first place, of what is not even what is making you feel unsafe. Yeah, that's part of it, but it's that you're feeling unsafe in general. So slowly, homeopathy is going to start peeling those layers back. And it may start with being less afraid of the panic, right? So suddenly the panic has less control over the moment. It has less control over the family, as you were talking about. And then it's seeing that the panic attack doesn't last as long. And then it's seeing that the panic attack doesn't come as often. And then it's noticing that, you know what? I actually feel better in my life as a whole. I feel more present as a being. And that's what homeopathy does. It takes you through all of those layers to true healing, because that's what true healing is.
It is really, isn't it? And even if we're talking with children who are really suffering, who perhaps cannot give us, the verbal idea of what is happening and how it's happening and why it's happening. But I often say that, well, actually, our job is to help them feel more comfortable in their environment. And you mentioned right at the beginning about that safe space. That has a big part of it, doesn't it?
For when it comes to panic, absolutely. Because that is your nervous system's way of saying, I'm in danger right now, right? Panic is important. It's a bodily function. We have it for a reason. If something that requires a panic response happens, we want your body to be able to have it. It's just about it being triggered in normal everyday things, in situations where it's not appropriate. For a lot of people, when panic attacks happen, it's the moment they let go as opposed to that moment that they were afraid of or that they're in, right? It's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever been to the grocery store and had all your stuff and your bags are full and you're carrying them. And I'm imagining paper bags right now, right? I know our environmental movement has put us into reusable canvas bags, which is better. But if you're carrying those bags and you feel like they might fall apart, it's like getting home before they fall apart because you've been holding them so tight that whole time that the moment you let it go, then the bag is able to tear.
Uh,
Yeah. And so for a lot of people, panic attacks come up in that moment that they try to let go, and then they realize they've been feeling unsafe the whole time. And there wasn't necessarily a what we would consider a biological cause for say for feeling unsafe, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It's like trying to drive across the bridge. You're watching all the other cars go across and they're doing just fine. Yeah, but instead, your body, your system is saying, I don't know, you might die or whatever it's saying. You might fall into the water, know.
Yeah, because of course the natural instinct, isn't it, when we come across danger is for that cortisol rush, which gets the heart pounding and the hot flushing and the shallow breathing and everything else. And that's what state we're going in. Our body is going into that, creating the physical symptoms, which of course then create the fear of the physical symptoms. So it's just a cycle, really, isn't it, that people get
Hmm.
into and can't get out. So outside help. Um,
Yeah. Once your body develops that pattern
um,
of saying, this is how I'm going to manage it, you have to address the pattern itself, because it becomes habitual. You start doing it without realizing you're doing it. Like anything else, if you're trying to learn how to type, you're no longer looking at the keys. Your fingers are just moving, and then suddenly there's words on the screen. It's just happening. And one of the things that homeopathy is brilliant at is addressing the pattern. Is giving your body a signal so that that pattern does not have to occur again.
I know that homeopaths use many different methods of prescribing and finding a remedy. So, is this a situation where you might be using miasmatic remedies or constitutional remedies as well as therapeutic remedies?
Absolutely. I don't know that necessarily a panic attack alone indicates a miasmatic remedy, but it definitely, because we are going to end up looking at this layer of anxiety that's simmering underneath the surface, right? We're absolutely going to be looking at what a lot of homeopaths end up calling a constitutional remedy. And chances are the moment that you started to learn how to cope with feeling unsafe, because it's normal to feel unsafe from time to time. Again, I want to be very clear, this is a normal feeling. But if you're feeling it all the time or in situations where there is no danger, then it becomes something else. Yeah, and it becomes something that we carry and express in many ways that we don't always realize until we're talking to our homeopath.
Right, because we do ask some strange questions sometimes, don't we, to understand how you respond in certain situations.
Well, truly, we're trying to understand you. Yeah, because we're prescribing on the whole of you. It's not just some part. And that's why I'm saying it's going to end up being a constitutional remedy, right? Because we want to understand all of you, and how it is that you got to this expression is the one that your body is pushing out. Right? Because it's just trying to tell you something, and it's been trying to tell you something for a long time. Again, the panic attack is truly a last ditch effort from the body to say, I really need you to pay attention to me. And so we look at the body, but our body, I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Body Keeps Score. The body stays with us for our lifetime. And so it's about going back and addressing the pattern as a whole from that moment that it started.
Fantastic. It's a really good explanation, Dee. Thank you. Can I just ask another question? Because quite often with homeopathy, we don't, we see somebody and then they might come back a few weeks later. And I often find with people who have high anxiety levels or panic attacks that they need something in between those times to help them through difficult moments. Is there anything that you would be helping your clients learn about to help them, perhaps exercises or something like that?
Absolutely. For the in between times and even during that moment of anxiety. Um, Truly, one of the most effective things that I personally ever used for experiences of panic attacks, because yes, absolutely, I have had at least two panic attacks I can think of in my lifetime. Um, and that was a self-hypnosis exercise, which comes down to breathing and actually speaking to yourself. So it's conscious breathing, because in that moment, the second you start tightening your breath and that stops coming, your whole body's going to say, I'm really in danger. Yeah. So it's consciously breathing. And one of the things that I love, on you just inhale, and on the exhale, I would say to myself, I'd say it out loud, didn't care how crazy I sounded. Okay. Would say to myself, I'm calm, I'm relaxed, I'm in control. And yes, I'll admit, the saying I'm in control points to which homeopathic remedy I would have needed. But in the moment, yes, you can take that acute remedy if you have it with you, but if you don't, you can use something simple and you just keep doing it. Just keep breathing. I'm calm, I'm relaxed, I'm in control. And then when we're talking about anxiety, there are so many things that I bring in, but it's really tailored to the person, right? And what it is they need. And so there are many levels of exercises that I have seen be incredibly effective to helping shift your mindset around it. Because homeopathy is going to address the pattern on so many levels. But it really helps if we consciously say, train. Train's not even the right word. Consciously educate ourselves on how it is we want to view the world and how it is we see ourselves. And sometimes that just takes a little practice for the body. And so exercises like, for some people, it's as simple as journaling and writing down their day so that they're not holding it anymore. For other people, it's a specific exercise with, instead of I'm calm, relaxed, I'm in control, it's something that really speaks directly to them and what they're going through and what they're bringing up and what they're experiencing. For some people, it is legitimately bringing in exercise to their life that allows the energy a place to go so they're not experiencing it the same way. So, yes, for my personal practice, I bring in all of this to help support someone.
That's perfect.
Can't,
Thank you. Can you just explain, let's just before we finish, is the types of things that we have seen using homeopathy? Because I personally can't imagine life without having homeopathy to help. But let's just talk for a moment about the changes that we have seen after taking remedies.
well, I have a really funny example of that, and this is with this particular remedy was belladonna, and I'm offering the remedy name in this moment because it makes the story funnier. Okay, but there was someone who I was very close to, who at the end of their day came to where I was. It was really charged and angry, and was like, I kind of want to punch someone. Didn't really say that, but you got the feeling. and um and I noticed just the oddest thing, like one ear was red and they said something about throbbing. I was like, okay, let's just try this. Right? This was a try this moment, and it was one dose of 30 C belladonna. We went for a walk. 10 minutes into the walk, this person said, I feel completely different. And legitimately said, where has belladonna been all my life? Like it was their long lost girlfriend. And sometimes we're lucky enough that we can see the changes that quickly, right? The right remedy at the right time. We can absolutely see that quickly in an acute condition. But we see the same things in long term conditions. They just unfold over time, where suddenly we're sleeping a bit more. And suddenly the anxiety is not quite as high. Like I was able to still function instead of move into full panic attack. And then the anxiety doesn't come up quite as frequently. I didn't even really notice it. And then without even realizing, things level out. And that process can take a long time. But it's funny because one of my favorite teachers of homeopathy always says, good homeopathy gives you a bad memory. And so you'll ask them, you know, you'll ask someone, if you still feel when anxiety, when you encounter this particular situation, do you still feel A, B, C, and D? And they're like, I didn't even realize I felt A, B, C, and D.
Exactly. That is such a good way of saying it, actually. I love that. I'm going to pinch that phrase, Dee, because yeah, just we see it all of the time, don't they? They just absolutely forget what what they had been feeling. Our
And
bodies.
that's because it's completely healed. Your body doesn't even retain the information of it.
It's interesting, isn't it? So yes, I have a very funny story with my mum who was 76, and she was calling me because her whole thigh, she'd broken a hip and then she'd mended, but her thigh was still very numb. And she I gave her a remedy, and then I called her up a week later and I said, how's your thumb? I can't talk to you now because I'm chainsawing a tree down. Oh, your thigh's okay then? You know, what thigh, don't you?
Exactly. There's another one of my favorite of someone who has the flu and they're on the couch and they can't get up and they can't move and you give them a remedy and you tell them to call you back to let you know how they're doing and they don't call you back and then you call them and they're like, "Oh, I was busy cleaning the house."
Yeah.
So clearly things are better.
Absolutely. It's funny how cleaning the house actually is a real big thing, isn't it? That people have on that recovery. But energy is so good, isn't it? Dee, it's been lovely talking to you today. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, pleasure's been mine. And hopefully, if nothing else, at the end of the day, I'm leaving you with, for one, panic attacks are normal. People experience them, but they're also a signal from your body, and homeopathy can help.
Did that resonate with you today? Do you recognize some of those symptoms in yourself or somebody that you live with? We've got lots of resources about panic attacks, so please do click on the link here and find out what you can be doing and how you can be helping yourself and your family. Look forward to seeing you next week.